Happy Friday, everyone. Alan, what's going on, man?
Not much. How are you, my man?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Thanks for joining us. I know you're super busy, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely, man. So while everyone logs on, I'm just going to do a brief introduction, and then we'll get into some of the questions. Anyway, thanks for joining us. So today we got Kellon Akeem, uber talented, multifaceted individual. Truly a pleasure to have him on with us today. This guy does it all: serial producer, serial entrepreneur, innovator, culture shifter, whatever you want to call it. He does it all. He's blazed his own trail within the entertainment industry with a keen ability to enterprise and bring ideas from conception to reality. He is CEO of Mansa Productions, a television and film production company that brings forward profound content. Their first short film in 2018, A Father's Love, made its debut during the American Black Film Festival. Since then, Kellon and Mansa Productions have worked alongside Datari Turner Productions, Scythia Films, Macro and Mandalay Pictures on major feature films such as Percy and 9 Days. In 2020, Mansa went into its first lead production on the project, titled A Lot of Nothing, which granted Mo McCrae his first directorial debut. Kellon's known for many things, but most importantly, he finds creative ways to cultivate an intersection between compelling content and community engagement. Kellon's appetite for enterprising does not settle. He's also known for further founding the ACE Management Corporation, which guides athletes, celebrities, and entertainers. He's a master of business development, and his reputation is big amongst heavy hitters in the entertainment industry. He's done collaborations with Anthony Mackie, Omar Dorsey, McClain, Jessie T, Usher, Tichina Arnold, T.I., and a bunch of other sports and entertainment celebrities. Those who know Kellon tout his drive, his professionalism, and his business sense. One of the best quotes I heard about him, they said that, Kellon will not only make things happen along the way, but he'll shake things up too. And I totally appreciate that, because that's the only way to get things done. And considering that it's Black Lives Matter month, we're going to talk about something that is very important, and that's the Black Lives Matter movement, which was featured first and foremost this past year, of course. So, Kellon, again, thanks for joining us. Really happy to have you on.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So we'll start with the basics, because despite there being a lot of media attention on the Black Lives Matter movement, most people don't truly understand what it's all about. So when was the Black Lives Matter movement started?
Well, it was started in 2013, right after, unfortunately, you had the killing of Trayvon Martin. And then when you were going through the trial and the George Zimmerman verdict came back, the hashtag started going crazy. And from there came the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Got you. And so that was the impetus. What was the overall mission to begin with? And has that changed over time?
I mean, I don't know the starters personally to say, but I mean, I just think that each Black person carries their own, their own mission internally. And we're all just searching for equality. So I think that's the common goal no matter what. But yeah, I think each person individually probably has their own personal meaning, to the movement themselves.
So tell us about your personal beliefs. You're saying everyone has their own kind of mission, their own purpose. Now, you've been ultra successful, and how do you view the Black Lives Matter movement? What's your mission, and how has it changed your career?
I mean, personally for me, my mission is, I didn't come from the greatest areas. I'm from a small city called Akron, Ohio. So my mission is to literally just carry my people through as well, even there from Akron, showing that we weren't raised to believe that you could be a doctor, you could work in Hollywood, you could be a pro athlete. Like, I mean, we all try to attain it, but deep inside, I don't think any of us really kind of think that it's possible. So, I mean, for me personally, I try to be the best example of what I could be in whatever industries that I choose to dive into, all while always pulling somebody up that if their drive and their mission aligned to mine, then there's no reason that I can't work with this person to make them better. I just think everybody in their respective fields and areas need to have a mentality that if there's somebody, you know, and I don't think that it really just all falls in the Black life. I think it's just anybody that may need help or that extra push. I mean, there's so many underserving communities that's not just Black. It's, you know, it's also white people, it's Mexican, it's Puerto Rican, it's, you know, Yugoslavians, you name it. You got that group of individuals that just aren't fortunate to live in the areas that have the resources for you to be better. So if you have the resource, I mean, I think it's on you to literally do your part and just pull somebody, you know, pull somebody up to where you are at the moment.
Yeah. You know, we've heard the term about systemic racism, and that's a very nebulous term. People kind of don't really understand what that is. They think racism is just face-to-face confrontations, direct hate. How pervasive is systemic racism in this country? How difficult is it based on your background, your race, your religion, sometimes to make it? How many barriers there are?
I mean, it's a part of almost everything that's a part of, you know, our lives, you know, politics, religion, as you said, where you live, location. I mean, there's a lot of people that, you know, if myself and you own, well, let's just say myself and you go into business on 2 homes and we split 50-50, you know, on those purchases. I bet if I go to one house and you go to the other house, when the appraiser comes, I think that even if they're both, you know, valued at $1 million, that appraiser may appraise yours for 1.2 million, all while I'm potentially appraised for 785. You know, it's little things like that. And it's just me being there. Or it may be, you know, you're in a home, we got the same homes, but your house, you know, shows African art. Your house shows, and all he knows you as to be the owner. So I just think that even the things around us, I think the appraisals are different. I think, you know, redlining has been something that was a part of our, you know, our lives forever. You know, I think there's different places that have Popeye's chicken on every corner, that has liquor stores on every corner, Dollar Generals on every corner. But those same places could never get a Whole Foods or a Publix, and vice versa. You know, there's places that once regentrified, you just see all come to life with everything that every community has always desired. And the reality is that, you know, it is probably based on systematic racism.
Now, how do we change that? Now, you know, one of the biggest things that I always say is that it's very hard to change adult behavior, but we can definitely educate the youth. How important is it to change our schooling system, educate junior high, grammar school kids into racial equality, acceptance? How important is that?
I think it starts with everybody realizing that systemic racism exists. You know, you can't fix anything that you're not willing to dive in and learn about, that you're not willing to, you know, do your research about, or, you know, even have some type of feeling towards it. I mean, there's a lot of people, and I think there's, even within our own culture, it doesn't just, it's not a white and black thing. You know, I think it's a thing to where when you live in a different area, you forget about the other areas. You don't remember that there's a responsibility and a duty there. Like for you personally, you know, with you being a doctor, I mean, there's a lot of times that somebody may say, well, I challenge you to go to, you know, whatever the worst neighborhood is in Miami, or in Dade County, as we say, which is popular to everybody, and say, well, I challenge you to go do a free service for one person in that thing. Like, I mean, and I don't think that that is always far-fetched or just a crazy idea. It's just because we don't go to these communities, we're so far removed from the problem. So first is educating ourselves, and then 2 is getting over our own fears and going to some of these schools. Like, I mean, I don't think you're in total danger if you go to a grammar school in the worst, you know, part, you know, of your area that you live in. So with that being said, we just step up and go to those places and then just try to each as individuals, which 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. If we just keep adding on one and we find ourselves in the hundred thousands of people willing to go out of their way to do something to bring the person lesser than them up, then you know we make our difference that way.
I mean, just like you were saying, I think maintaining momentum is so important. You know, you always see something be front and center in the news, and then over time it kind of dies away and people forget about it. I was researching this past weekend about the Black Lives Matter movement. Amazing what was done this past year. I was just reading about it. So 25 million people participating. It's the largest movement in the United States history. In addition, they did a poll at the end of 2020. 70% of adult Americans believe in the Black Lives Matter movement. Also an amazing number. The number that I found most amazing was total donations to Black Lives Matter movement in general, $10 billion. Just absolutely outstanding. And I think this is all positive movement. How do we maintain that momentum? How do we not let time forget what's going on?
So out of everything that you named, of course, $10 billion will stick out the most. There's no question. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, I gave money. I believe I did my part. It's so far past that. I mean, it's literally just diving in and again, using your resources. We're not asking somebody that is not a carpenter to go build something in an underserved community. You know, it's not realistic. But if you are a master at something, take that craft there. If you're if you're bilingual and you speak the Spanish language, take your skill to a place that's outside of your comfort zone. And that's for all of us. Again, it's not necessarily just a race thing. It's everybody just taking time to do what's uncomfortable, because people always know that in the communities that, you know, are not those areas or where most of the Black Lives Matter people that we think in our minds we're supporting, they're living in these areas that just don't have resources. So, I mean, even the money is there, but, and this is insane, like not to be, but you don't know what somebody's, passion is. So if that passion is only in 3 lanes, there's still hundreds more of, lanes that need to be covered in these areas. So I think it's really more on us personally doing our part to bring what expertise and what resources we have. The money is cool, but I mean, I just saw, one of the stories that I watched on YouTube as I was just kind of looking at something was a young kid named Walter Scott. He's a 20-year-old kid in Alabama. He literally walked to work. His mom lost his job. I mean, him and his mom lost their home in a fire. So they were homeless. This kid gets a job. He's supporting his mom as well, 20 miles away from where he worked. He lived 20 miles and walked. So, the thing is, we have George Floyd, we have, Eric Garner, we have Michael Brown, we have all these things that we know started this movement. And unfortunately, police brutality is the thing that's at the top. But Walter Scott was a young 20-year-old kid that was also pulled over by the police. And the policeman heard that he was walking 20 miles. He had already walked 14. He left home at 11:45 p.m. to get to work by 7 a.m. And so you see things like that. And this cop picked him up, took him to the place to where he was going to work, the first move, to make sure that he didn't lose that job. And the cop went to the lady's door to explain what he had witnessed through this kid. Now, when you look him up and see him on YouTube, all you see is this white woman that also said, you walked all that way, go upstairs. She told a total stranger to go upstairs and lay down before he get to work. Now, because he just has that type of integrity, he didn't. He said, no, I prefer to go to work and just get to work. But there's stories that just show there are people that do their part. And when you go above and beyond and you use, what you bring to the table to make us all better, then it puts us all in a better position to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you basically are saying is actions speak louder than words. It's about not only giving the money, it's about doing your part to make acceptance a bigger deal, and understanding, different cultures, different races. We've obviously come a long way over the last 50, 70 years here in this country, but we clearly have a long way to go. What are some of the things you would like to see changed as a priority?
I mean, probably because the field that I work in, I would definitely say, you know, what we view, like things that's we live in a world where you can upload anything, and if your mind consumes it, it becomes a part of you, and sadly, it becomes your reality. So, just finding ways to highlight more positive images, more positive things, more ways to highlight our history. Like, of course, everybody can always dive into slavery. I mean, that's easy for us to dive into when we're having those conversations. But the reality is, it's not always even accepted, that conversation. Can me and you sit down for an hour and just talk about slavery? In most black to white cases, that would be a no. So, I mean, it's the list could go. It's too tall,
Yeah,
to even dive into.
it's about focusing on the positive. And you had mentioned criminal justice reform as being something that clearly needs to change. What Just summarize
Sure.
for our audience, like, what are the current problems in your opinion with our criminal justice system?
I mean, even starting with the amount of people incarcerated, I mean, it's just staggering numbers. I mean, the reality is minorities are at over 80%, I believe, and don't 100% quote that, but I know it's just a, a huge difference in the numbers that are. But when you get out, and this is something I can speak to, personally, just being from where I come from and what I've done and experienced. I mean, a lot of times, even when you do go to prison, you serve your time. The amount of resources that are available to you, you get assigned to one person that pretty much dictates your life, where you can go. He says if you can move or not, if you can take a job or not. It's funny. Like, working in film, I get to meet so many awesome people, and there's a gentleman right now who I'm looking to work with, and confidentially, I just can't give his name, but I can give somewhat of his story. He was a gentleman that literally is multi-millionaire NFL player, but got caught in the system early, did one bad thing, made the wrong decision, was on probation for 10 years. So was offered, when one school didn't work out for him, he was offered to even bigger school, a D1 opportunity, and his probation officer said, no, you can't go there, and that was in Oregon. But then a year later turned around and said he can be in Oklahoma. Just think about the person that gets out that has a parole officer that says, in order for you to be here, you can't leave this one city or state, but you have to get a job. If you fill out 200 applications a week and nobody hires you, it's still that one person controlling your life. And I mean, there's so many things there that we need to change at, our state levels. And that's why this year I really dove in with a few of my friends on voting, and everybody thinks that it was just, to potentially maybe vote one person out, one person in. So it was never about that. Everybody thinks about the initiatives, but yeah, more people voted than ever for the president. Cool. But what about these state levels, where the laws are actually, formulated? We got to literally do more and educate ourselves on just things of that, because without it, our criminal justice system will remain the same forever.
Yeah. And you're known as a culture shifter, someone who influences people around you, mainly because of what you've done and what you're doing in terms of entertainment and film. Tell us a little bit about your films and how you promote racial equality, acceptance. How important is that to you as a film director?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been blessed to really kind of move at an accelerated rate in the film industry. I often talk to people that's like, I've been at this for 10 years, just I think my break is right there and things of that nature. So I started this thing about 2.5 years ago, and, fortunate to work alongside Christopher Walken, Christina Ricci, Winston Duke, Zazie Beetz, Benedict Wong, Bill Skarsgård, some really big names and things of that nature. Anthony Mackie, Jesse Usher, you know, a few people, Omar Dorsey, to say a few. But I'm saying this to say, I mean, it's still amazing to me. Like I don't even know how we got here, and just blessed to really take what we're doing, and alongside these gentlemen. Like one thing that I just want to kind of go above and over, you know, not to jump off the question, but just want to say, a lot of people always say, so I take my expertise really serious to say, this is how I can help. So the one thing that I wanted to help do is say, look, we want more diversity in front of and behind the camera. That's very important to me. The only way that you can do that is to continue to be successful, make projects, and then be able to dictate who is behind the camera. There's two things that take, you know, and that's influence and money. You know, it's just the reality. So myself and my partner, we went in and we're establishing, you know, a fresh voice fund to give minorities, diversity, inclusion. Inclusion is the main vehicle here. And so I don't know, for me, I don't want to just talk it. I want to literally, like you just said, say culture shifter. I mean, all those things, the publicists put those words in, is very, very flattering that they would say those things about me. But I try to do, you know, things every day to where I've seen my Jewish friends in their communities do, you know, my plastic surgeon friends in their communities do. They include each other on the best deals and then on everything that comes, you know, to light. So for me, the easiest thing to do is to take film and entertainment and say, okay, I have, just like I was saying, that person that I want to bring up, it's nothing for me to say, okay, here's a PA, a production assistant, you know, position. That's what you're doing. Even if you're shadowing a production assistant, we're giving you an opportunity to see what this looks like. I know that there's plenty of people. I was literally blessed to meet some people that were released from prison, and some of the smartest people I know. I know they can hold lights. I know they can be a gaffer. They can do things. And I think we just got to do our part on our end to raise the resources and make sure that we have projects for people to work on. I don't care if you're a contractor, doctor. You can't be a doctor with no patients. You know, you can't be a contractor with no buildings. So me, I can't be a filmmaker with no projects. So I have to do my part to make sure that I'm constantly working so I can practice everything I preach.
I mean, what's great is that you have a very powerful tool because you're a producer and people are going to see, you decide what people see. And so what I love is that you recognize what a powerful tool that is and you don't take it for granted. How important is it for people that have the kind of spotlight that you have, entertainers, athletes, how important is it for people like that to stand up for what they believe in? For example, look at like LeBron James, one of the most vocal people out there. And he's very clear that he doesn't take his position lightly. He's an influencer. Everyone listens to what he has to say. How critical is it for people who are in that position, who are lucky to have that position, to use that to influence society?
It's funny. It's funny you use him as an example. I grew up with LeBron in Akron, you know, played ball with him a lot. And he's always been a vocal guy. I mean, we played for the Shooting Stars when we were kids. And even in fifth grade, we had people, like hundreds of people pulling up the games. And I mean, I don't think he knew he was going to have this platform, but I think even around his senior year, once things just elevated, probably more so junior year after that Sports Illustrated cover, I think he strategically started placing people in his life to make sure that he could make a difference, to make sure that he could have a brand. It's important for anybody with a voice. And I mean, if you're on Instagram with 100 followers, you have a voice, you know? So it's very important. So when you have these people with hundreds of thousands and millions, yeah, they have to stand for something and help others stand for something. Or, you know the old saying, we stand for something or we fall for anything. So we have to literally align ourselves across the board, every race, every denomination, every religion, you name it. We have to align ourselves with the positive messaging that just puts everybody in position to be better and grow as a society. So if you have that platform of millions or more, it's because that's who, even though this group is, I think it's Group Z now, Gen Z,
Mhm.
they're a little different. They're radical, they're vocal, they have resources, even if they don't want to read today, you can go on YouTube and learn more than any book will teach you now,
Yep.
But the reality is now, even with, our kids, with us having little ones and things of that nature, when they have those iPads or those phones open, we're looking at them like wide eye, like, oh my gosh, what just popped up there? Like, there's so much wrong messaging that can always pop in on anything. So, I mean, the reality is, and I'm not saying that just because it's my industry, content is king. And with content being king right now, our moral, our moral values and everything should be at an all-time high, as well as our messaging.
So let me ask you, can you beat LeBron one-on-one?
Nah, I mean, even back then, back then I could outshoot him for sure.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. There's no
Okay.
question. I got 100% confidence in that. But as far as his physical, like I remember, I think it was 7th grade, nobody thought that a 7th grader on a fast break was going to dunk the ball. So I think that's right when people was like, okay, he a little different. And then right there, this freshman year at high school, I mean, you could just tell, watching each game and being able, even our newspaper clippings, it's like our newspaper said, okay, Kellon, you have 40, it doesn't matter. We're going to look at LeBron James and what he did.
Kind of a freak. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question which is commonly asked. People a lot of times when they hear about Black Lives Matter, they counter with the saying all lives matter, which is obviously true. All lives do matter. But why is that statement counterproductive to what Black Lives Matter is trying to do?
I mean, in my opinion, though, when people say it, sadly, it's a response, it's a reply. So if you walk outside and yell all lives matter, I don't think you're going to get the same response that you get when somebody yells Black Lives Matter, and then you come back with all lives matter, because now it's a response. It's not you walking out and saying I love everybody. Is you saying, okay, we know what movement you're yelling out. And the same people that's normally saying it is the same people that have the same television, the same radio, the same, news media that we have, which means that you're choosing to respond with what's going on. Like, I haven't seen a Black Lives Matter rally for no reason. It's never just been, we getting up on February 1st just for a Black Lives Matter recap. Unfortunately, it's because of Trayvon Martin, it's because of Eric Garner, it's because of Mike Smith, it's because of George Floyd. And that's when, it rallies it back up. So, I mean, it's not necessarily that it's bad to say all lives matter. It's not bad to say blue lives matter. I just told you a story of a cop that I would love to meet that I think has to be a dope individual to do what he did with that young man. So it's not saying that blue lives don't matter. It's just us. And by us, I'm saying Black lives. It's Black people saying we're fed up, we're tired of these different instances that keep having to arise to make the movement didn't make $10 billion until probably George Floyd happened, which is sad. But George Floyd was the one thing where you just, no matter what color you were, you had to think about what it felt like to have a knee on your neck for that long, asking for your mother, no, there's nothing that, was more despicable than that moment in a lot of people's eyes, no matter what race or where you came from. So the thing was, it was timely, and then it was just sad and unfortunate.
It's out of everything bad comes something good. And what was great to see was how that terrible event was the impetus for a mass movement. And like I was saying, we just got to keep that momentum going. We can't let it die down. Listen, man, it's been half an hour. I just want to say thank you for all you do, what you've done, what you've accomplished at such a young age so quickly. Inspirational. You're obviously a role model for a lot of young kids. And I just appreciate everything you do. And obviously, I'm sure you realize people look up to you, and obviously what you say and what you do really transcends.
Man, I appreciate that. So just thank you for even thinking enough of me to talk with you. And yeah, I think all of us will continue to do our part and just look forward to us just, gradually just getting better year after year.
Absolutely. It takes everyone doing their part, like we talked about.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Wu-Tang forever. Okay?
You got it, man.
Talk to you later, man.
Talk to you. Have a great one, sir.